Hey folks, Kaiserneko here. Welcome to another episode breakdown. Today, we're covering something really different, KAI-AI-AI Abridged Episode 2. And boy, oh f***ing boy, was this an adventure. After the success of the first Abridged KAI episode, it was imperative to us that the second episode follow up in a big way. As such, we really went all out to up the visual humor, more than tripled the original runtime, for better or for worse, and basically went balls to the wall in terms of presentation. To start it off, here's the obligatory timeline shot. As per the usual, lots going on in both the audio and video sections. Now, one of the first real effects you see in this video that permeates the entire episode are these transitional wipes. I use a fast blur and set their motion tracks so the transition is as relatively seamless as possible. With the ship here, I actually cut it out in Photoshop, erased it from its original shot, and then repasted it in place. Now this next shot's a pretty infamous one. See, every time we have a character use the the solar flare, a different image flashes subliminally. The first was a picture of Frieza in the shower. The second was a shot of Dodoria in lingerie, but this one, well, this is a special one. It's actually from our first 18+ panel ever at Youmacon 2010, I believe? Lanipator dressed up as Frankenfurter, for Halloween. Just gonna let that one sink in there for you. Not entirely unrelated, see the shot of Vegeta about to vomit? I had to take this shot right here with his eyes closed, cut the eyes out, and then repaste them as his head moved. Now this next shot here is of Little Green. There actually isn't a whole lot to this one, there's just a bunch of moving textures in the background. The ears on the text are, in fact, Dende's ears from this very shot as well. The 3D extrusion tool in Photoshop did the rest for the text. Speaking of Little Green, all these little shots with his eyelids lowering, they're separate layers over his eyes. Small little animations like this have become pretty standard in the process. So, you know how Krillin screams throughout this entire scene while Vegeta keeps laughing? I actually had to use 2 different screams mashed up together to get the length needed. Not that Lani likely couldn't have done the scream as long as I needed it, but that would have required him to re-record, we were on a time crunch, it would have been a total pain in the ass. Now, for one of the biggest shots in the entire episode, Vegeta's rage breaking. This shot took me a while to figure out, but only because I had so much fun fooling around with a mosaic tool and the filters in After Effects. The shot with the crashing flash tool, I actually had to go to the task manager and quit Flash to get the image I needed. Then, for the destruction of the fourth wall, I led into it using the motion blur and wiggle tool before using the shatter tool, all in After Effects. The shatter tool would come back pretty quickly after this shot as well. See, for this shot, I have several different layers. The background, the shadow for the Ginyu Force themselves, the overlay of the background to isolate the shadow of Goku's ship on the Ginyu Force. Then there's the ship itself. Now here's something real fun. When Goku's ship crashes into them, I actually have the whole Ginyu Force flattened slightly under it before it fully crashes. The crash itself involves a stock explosion, as well as the shatter tool. But if you freeze frame it right here, you'll notice something real special. You can see inside of Goku's ship. Honestly, as someone who was going through it frame by frame, it just bothered me that there was nothing inside the ship as it was exploding. The hilariously cheap shot of the wreckage was composed of some stock fire, as well as painstakingly cutting out pieces of Goku's ship, and then using the 3D extrusion tool on each, before setting them in place. Also, this shot of Piccolo, I had to go back to the original project file for episode 24 just to recreate it appropriately. Now, for one of the hardest shots in the entire episode. This, right here. See, for this shot, I took the entire sequence into After Effects. Then I used the Roto brush to select Frieza and Krillin, and only Frieza and Krillin, so I could make them a completely separate layer. This was incredibly time-consuming, as I essentially had to do it frame by frame, deselecting the background every time. Also, this part's not in the script. I just did it on a whim because I'm 12 years old. Also, this shot of Dende leaning in, also not in the script. It's actually just from this earlier shot, only cut out and moved. His death, shatter effect, stock explosion, stock blood splatter. Hey, know the joke where Vegeta coughs up blood in the middle of Goku's dialogue? Not not in the script either, but Moscow flubbed one of his takes, so I ran with it. The next big visual effect is Goku's Raspberry, animated by a friend of the team and very talented artist Stephen Krosix. If you're curious about more of his work, he actually has his own Attack on Titan Abridged called Abridged on Titan. Give it a look-see. So, you know Gohan's line of dialogue here? Yeah, we've basically considered that one of our biggest missed opportunities in the entire series. So here, we were finally able to right that wrong. Next, see this part with the dragon? Play his dialogue backwards for a subliminal message. Also for this joke, which is actually a reference to a popular DBZ YouTube video, the greatest line Piccolo ever says, I actually took the original shot of Piccolo and cleaned him up just to keep consistency. Next, we have Frieza's hand here. That's actually the hand from here, only with the middle finger removed this time. By the way, thank God for motion blur. Also, the joke of his hand landing next to him? Also not in the script. Finally, with this last part, I ended up taking the original footage from episode 30, the art of Goku's face done by a good friend of ours, Zach Manley, by the way, and for Planet Namek turning into a muffin, I used the wiggle effect again. For the explosion, I used CC Particle World and used the original muffin as the template for each particle. It took me a while to get it to look right, but I'm very satisfied with the end result. As for this shot with Nappa, that's all Masako X, baby. Thank you, you wonderful British bastard, for saving me a hell of a lot of time in production and picking up my slack. I love you, man. Funny thing, I made sure to have the day it would be going up and the description we would use to the point where Lanny wanted to put it up a day early and I had to convince him to wait. And now I realize that I've openly admitted to holding off content from you folks, so before I find myself lynched, I shall bid you adieu. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to check out my previous. And if you like videos about video games and our characters playing video games and us playing video games and adventure games, then make sure to check out TFS 2 Saiyans. Thanks again, and see you next time.